Okay, so good morning, everyone. Firstly, I like to maybe extend a heartfelt thanks to the organizers of this event for having all of us here. And it's a privilege to be part of this discussion with the esteemed panelists we have here, all innovation leaders. So thank you for that. And it is great to have all of you here. It has been a bit of a bum in the morning with the rains, but thank you for making it. This session is on building excellence in sports technology. And while we go about it, we'll try to make the best of their expertise for everyone here. And what we'll also try and do is maybe near the end of the session, make it a little interactive and hear from you as well, just so that we have an all-round kind of feedback for our experiences as well. So if we look at technology interventions in the sports sector today, okay, I would say we could, maybe divide it into two parts. One part of the solutions are, around the players, around the game. You talk about, say, something like a Hawkeye or a VAR or a no ball being called out. What kind of tension you need in a tennis racket, or which muscle do you want to work on if you want to improve your strength in a butterfly stroke. So all of these things have become more accessible now with the kind of tech interventions we have in different elements. The second bucket, though, is around the fan engagement or the entire ecosystem around sports. Okay, so when we talk about access to information about players, access to matches, from not very far back, there was a time when not all matches were accessible for us to view in the first place, right? And now today we have possibilities where you can just maybe view a match on demand, right? So those are the kind of possibilities which tech has kind of made enabled for us as viewers, as fans, as participants of this of the sector, so as to say. Interestingly, the panel which we have here, we have representation from a company which is into sports variables. We have someone who looks at fan engagement. We have someone who also looks at overall, journey of the sports, fan in a way, right? And what all we can do for the players or for the federations, so as to say. So very diverse panel here we have, and that would definitely help us to add some nuances to it. As we, as I hand it over to you to share your experiences, I thought it will also be helpful for everyone here to make a reference to this recently released report, which was done by Deloitte and Google jointly. It's called Think Sports. What it said was that today the valuation of sports as a sector is around 52 billion, and come 2030, it is expected to be $130 billion, right? So that's what we are looking at. It's a CAGR of around 14-15%, and that actually is twice the GDP rate of what we expect as a country today, okay? What it also means is that this sector is expected to create at least 1 crore jobs in this given period, and the contribution through indirect tax revenue itself would be around $21 billion. Why I'm bringing this reference here is because the report concludes that one of the key underlying factors for this growth to happen is going to be the technological advancements. So gentlemen, you're in business, right? Yeah. And so with that, I will now request, for each of you to share your experiences of what you have seen on ground, what were, say, some of the key challenges which you faced, and what was a game changer. And, Gagan, I am a little inclined to start with you, and I'll tell you why, because I have an incremental question on that for you. You are into sports equipment tech, you work around sports bat and technology around it. And with the recent drubbing which we have received, can we discreetly provide some bats to the Indian cricket team which has no outside edges? Over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Advanced. Thank you. Good morning, guys. If you indulge me, Saurabh, I would like to, I have a fundamental question in my life is life, right? And would like to share why we are good with it, right? I wanted to share a fictional story with you. No resemblance to anybody, right? So this guy called Neo, he was in his interelectric travel. His stop on Earth was after approximately a century, came down here in 1950s, 60s. And he landed at Adelaide. And he saw Sir Don Bradman scoring a double century. These Earthlings are interesting sort of people. They play an interesting game. Seems to be a lot of skill, definitely tenacity. And over 5 days, 5 Earth, pretty interesting. Impressed he was, he went back in his, if you will, on the wolves, said, I will come back to this planet again. But love to see how this evolves. Went about, came back in 2019. All right? And he was very disappointed seeing the game. And he tried to pin down why he was disappointed. And he asked himself, answered, that the game didn't evolve the way he expected the game to evolve. It's almost similar, although night cricket has come, different formats have come and so on and so forth. And he said, what's missing is players are looking at the game with the same perspective as they were before. There's not a single new dimension which is added to the way you view the game. And he said, let's solve this challenge. So cameras have been a big part of sports overall. And cameras convert a 3D world to a 2D world. A 3D world to a phone screen. He said, everything that's happening in that 22 yards, equipment knows. Can we make the equipment talk to the players and coaches about what's happening to itself and hence what you can do to kind of make the difference? That's the genesis of straight bat. Can we make the equipment talk in a language and democratize it so that everybody can use it on the Earthlings? So that was the why piece of why we started. So straight bat typically is basically a sport tech company, a deep tech company. We're making the equipment smart so that we can enable the players to play better. And to answer Ramky's question, no, we cannot make great batters, we can only enable them. That's what the tech is the role to play, and that's about it. So just a bit of context. It's a little equipment sensor which goes behind the bat and captures motion without cameras. It is now integrated inside the bats. We are the first thing of world's first smart willow. You've heard about Kashmir willow, English willow, now there's smart willow. You mentioned about challenges, right? So you're talking about completely new category creation, a technology which never existed, right? So obviously, tech was a big challenge. It was not easy. It wasn't easy. It's not easy at all. But I tell you what, especially for entrepreneurs, at least my experience is, if you think tech is difficult, welcome to the real world. If product is the king, go-to-market is God. If you do not crack that, and if you don't crack that from day zero, you're Rogered. There is no, it's just impossible. You can create the best sort of tech, but if you don't have a go-to-market right, and we didn't get it right. We made a lot of pivots, a lot of errors, a lot of mistakes, but few fundamental first principles helped us to ensure that a little Joe in, let's say, Bandra playing with a product, we need to have the best in the world to play with it. So we went after them, got really hammered by what their needs were, learned, went about it, and built the product which we believe now is a good standard. But the go-to-market is the biggest challenge. We've been discussing that monetization in India is huge, a big challenge. I'm sure everybody will agree with that, right? The thing is, how do you overcome that challenge, right? There's an opportunity, there's a huge opportunity. You're talking about a 15% CAGR growth. So there is money coming into business. But how do you get access to that money is the big thing. And I think what we are trying to do is, everybody says this is an innovative business. What my attempt is to commoditize this business. I want to commoditize my tech, make it available everywhere. In every equipment, this will be there. When it gets commoditized, it gets acceptance. It gets acceptance, there is scale. So I think the biggest challenge in sport tech is go-to-market, as in any industry. And we need to figure out our own ways to kind of overcome that challenge.
Interesting. Thank you. Sid, you would like to go next?
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm Sidhhant, and I'm the founder of a company called SportVot. We help live stream sports games. So there's an interesting stat that over 99% of sport that is played in the world doesn't get televised. So we went after that problem, and I hope that we are able to reduce that by 1%. So that's the only intention right now. Our product is simple. We have a software solution that lets users stream matches either using a smartphone. You can use a fancy camera, or you can use some of automated cameras. People like to use AI word very loosely, but we are not an AI camera or anything of that sort. It's a very simple solution. But in the end, essentially, we make live video capture very simple. And I think you're mentioning that today you have access to matches, and so yes. So one of the key pieces for us is that access, how we are able to have a level playing field for anyone that is participating in sport, to be able to showcase their talent and be able to get discovered, even if you are in Guwahati or in Tezpur playing a volleyball game. You still will have someone watching you, or maybe a scout or a coach wanting to, look at you, try to make your game better, place you in a better club, place you in a better team. So it opens a lot of possibilities for athletes, for sports organizations to commercialize, monetize their games in a slightly different aspect as well, where you have viewership, you have got a story to tell, that you have X number of viewers watching your game. And essentially, when you talk about grassroots and non-mainstream or sub-elite sports, that, excuse me, monetization is a very big challenge, right? All you have is sponsorships, or relying on funds from MLAs and corporators trying to help you create tournaments. So I think the whys are, I think these are the two main whys behind what we do. One is being able to help unearth stories and talent from different parts of India and certainly the world as well. And the flip side is on the organization side. How do we make them sufficient and help them create a sustainable development program for sport? Because if organizations are sustainable, they will be able to develop sport better in that region. So I think these are one of our two major motivations behind doing what we do at SportVot.
Great. That's pretty fascinating. Thank you for sharing. Chintan? Thank you.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Chintan, co-founder of Footrax. We started as a performance data tracking company with a wearable, but now our major focus has come into analytics of that data. One thing we understood is, till now what has happened, like how Gagan was saying, that the person or the alien that came back is still seeing the same game that we have been seeing for the last 60, 70 years. But the changes that have been happening is terms of getting the players fitter, making sure that there are no injuries, making sure that they're able to perform at the highest level, at the best performance that they can give, other than the qualitative side of it, like how your movement of bat is happening or your stance, what is there. We provide that data for you. We give you your physical performance data, including your heartbeats, whether it has been going out of range, since there are a lot of heart attacks happening right now on the field, that players are dying or whatever be the case. We just want to make sure that nothing of that sort is happening, at least at the grassroots level or even at the level that the professionals are playing. That's where we come in. We provide that data. That data can be used by the coaches, by the scouts to understand how the player has evolved from playing at the grassroots till the time that they've reached their professionals. Or this data can be used as a fan engagement as well, because right now people do want to see what the other players are doing. They want to match that. By matching, I means like suppose Bumrah is today bowling at 19 kilometers, like he's running at 19 kilometers per hour, and then he's able to bowl at 140. Whereas if you see in football, there is Cristiano Ronaldo, who is even at 40 years of age, he is so fit that everyone wants to get into fitness so that they're able to achieve at the highest level. I'm not talking about the generational talent. That is a different thing, because those are like outliers. But physical performance has become something very important in the game, and it has reached to a level where everyone needs to be the best. Because nowadays, other than cricket, if you see in football even, there are matches happening in like 3-4 days, and if you're not able to recover that fast, there are high chances that you might fail at the highest level. So that's where we come in. On monetizing front, the challenges, yes, everyone like said, we all have been facing that to monetize it, but that again brings us an opportunity, because there's a lot of educating that needs to be done. Educating in needs in like, we need to educate the players, we need to educate the coach, as well as the younger kids and their parents too, that this is as necessary as going to the coaching academy and getting that data and understanding that data, and then acting on that data is equally important by just not showing up in the academy. So if we keep on doing that, we believe maybe in the future, India would not be just the superpower in cricket, but in all the other sports as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Chintan. Ramky, you would like to go ahead?
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure being here at this conference and sharing some of our thoughts. I'm Ramky from Sportsmechanics. We are a sports analytics company based out of Chennai. We've been working with the Indian cricket team for the last 21 years, Indian hockey team for the last 15 years. We work with multiple IPL teams and also multiple associations. We worked in multiple sport, weightlifting, boxing, athletics, table tennis. I started off in 2001. And from there, it's been a long journey, and I've been battling hard. It was music to my ears when Saurabh said that it's going to be a huge business opportunity out there. So we've been waiting for that opportunity. When we started, it was all, but nobody understood the concept. I used to carry, I didn't have money to buy a laptop, so I used to carry a big desktop to every ground, trying to convince each of the coaches on visual-based coaching, right? And today coaching is even today, after much of the evangelization, still people are at the naked eye coaching level. I'm not saying it's bad, but what I'm saying is that the possibilities are very different today. So the coaching has to transition to produce better results in a faster period of time. I was a cricketer myself. It took me 15 years to mature as a cricketer. I didn't play great level, but up to, was in the junior state, was in the state probables, faded out after that. But it took me 15 years of real hard work, because those days, you don't have a camera also. Camera is very expensive. I remember the first time I went to Bombay for the Bobby Simpson's camp in CCI. And I didn't have money to buy a camera, so I hired somebody from Bombay to come and do the video shoot. And at the end of it, he only shot the faces. Of course, he's from Bollywood, so I asked him, "Hey, what have you done?" He said, "I'm capturing the emotions." So we had to do the reshoot again, and that day I decided that I had to buy my own cameras and do the shoot myself. So I started doing the video shoot because I knew exactly what kind of information the coaches would want, so which angle would produce that kind of information. So I analyzed about 100,000 cricketers in the company of all the top coaches in the world. And the journey started, and joined the Indian team in 2003 as the first performance analyst of the Indian cricket team. And then from there on, whatever we said was accepted. People started embracing it more. And in the Indian team also, the adoption was initially people were skeptical as to what this guy can do or what a laptop can do in the dressing room. There are people saying, hey, has he played for India to come and tell me some insights? You have this analytics, you always have this challenge, right? In healthcare or insurance or wherever, banking, people come and say, I've been in this industry for 20 years and you're coming and giving me an insight. So that's the same thing in cricketing also, where all the coaches also felt the same way. I mean, they felt, because their cricket IQ was very high, and you're going to come and give them an insight which they have not seen. So the acceptance was going to be very low. And initial days, acceptance was very low. The association we worked with, the home association we worked with, appointed a committee to evaluate my software, and none in the committee had even touched a laptop. So they were supposed to evaluate my software and give a feedback. But yeah, we had to break through all these things. Lot of resilience, a lot of hanging in there, and being patient. And then the big breaks happened once I joined the team. Fortunately for me, I had the blessings of BCCI. They were open enough to give me a blanket approval into changing a lot of things. Not only with the Indian team, I spent my own money. I didn't depend on anybody, because in those days, even if you had to buy a mouse pad, they will say, is Australia doing it? So only then you'll have to do. And we would never lead. Okay, we can never lead if you go with that approach, right? So I was convinced that India can play a pivotal role as far as data analytics is concerned, and how we can become a global leader in sports analytics. And that's the whole vision, in terms of we may not be winning medals on our own in the short run, but we can definitely power everyone's victory with our analytics. And I don't see, I see a huge opportunity for Indians. Every Indian has an inherent strength in data mining and data warehousing, right? Everybody analyzes the game very well. Everybody has an opinion. Everybody has a thought. So it's very, very important to capture all those and provide the insights which can benefit multiple stakeholders. Because today everybody is talking about sports science, very important. But data science is the one which stitches all of that together and provides the winning insight. Okay, winning with data happens only with the ability to interpret the data and provide that. So the problem was the last mile delivery. Interpretation of data. Everybody here is generating a lot of data. Today, there's an explosion of data happening around the athlete. So how do you capture that? Not only around the athlete. People are talking about fan engagement. Every fan, there is so much of data around the fan. His preferences. How do you personalize fan engagement? So the whole experience can be hyper-personalized, and with all the Gen AI and AI coming in, a whole lot of possibilities around that. So look forward to sharing with you.
So one follow-up question, Ramky. There are some news reports which suggest that while you were kind of trying to reach out to the Indian cricket team, you decided to approach Rahul Dravid to get a breakthrough, and your reason for that was you thought he would appreciate it the most because he was an engineer. Is that true?
No, I don't think it was Rahul. Okay. It happened. Like I said, I analyzed about 100,000 players in the company of all the top coaches in the world, and the news spread around to John Wright. Okay. John Wright, at that point, he was the architect of the setting up the high-performance architecture. He brought in the physio, he brought in the trainer, and then he brought in. So he asked me to come and present to the coaches on visual-based coaching. And all the coaches were all big legends. You had Kirmani, you had Prasanna, you had Kiran More, Bharat Reddy, a lot of legends of the game. And I was there asked to present on 45 minutes on visual-based coaching. It's something which was very different from what they have been doing and what they have learned, right? And when I did it for 45 minutes, they came and told me that everybody likes it, so continue for the entire day. Actually, he was supposed to talk. He gave his job to me and asked me to address the audience. And yeah, and at the end of the day, he said, Ramky, there is a opportunity with the Indian cricket team. The money is not great, but I said, forget about the money. No Indian would refuse this offer. I'm on board straight away. So I joined for a paltry 30,000 rupees with them, but I am today what I am only because of the decision and the support given by the BCCI for that.
Great. Thank you so much for sharing that anecdote. And clearly, that has left behind a trail of success. And now we see so many ventures in sports looking at analytics with a different perspective, right? So thank you for that. So moving on, for any country to become a sporting success nation, right? There has to be enough appreciation of what we can do at grassroots levels as well. And is there something, which can be done differently with tech now, right? And is there something that we can do to enable people to make them aware rather, not even enable, but make them aware that these kind of tech interventions are available and for their help, right? So what are your thoughts on that, Chintan, if you would like to share?
That's actually the biggest, I believe, the challenge that I think every one of us are facing right now. And that also makes us believe that this is the biggest opportunity. Because at the end of the day, if we are not able to develop the grassroots or the future generation at all, we might not be able to achieve what we have started doing right now. So by achieve, I mean to say, we want to make sure that this tech is available to each and every one of us. We just don't want it to be available to the elite level players. It's there already. I'm not saying that we don't want to cater to them or they shouldn't be only one, but we are just saying that instead of them reaching at the professional level and then getting hands-on to this tech, it's always better that it is available to them from the grassroots level so that they start understanding it, they start utilizing it to the maximum benefit for themselves. And then when they reach it to the professional level, they are able to cater it to the altogether and different level. Right? Now, considering all this, it has become a lot of, I'm not going to say anyone band name or I'm not going to put out anything, but at the end of the day, when you see cricketers or when you see footballers, it's just that whatever they do, we follow, right? There are a lot of tech involved which people are not able to see, but which are actually helping the players as such. Like how Gagan is saying that he has a smart willow, which is there in the bat, but no one is able to see. There is something that we do which is on the back of the player, which is not visible to anyone as of now. It's there. Everyone knows that there is a small bulge at the back of the player, but they don't know what exactly it is. But people have seen bands on the players, and that has taken all together that they are using it, so they are performing at the highest level. Maybe it is helping. It is there like 2% or 5% of the time, but 95%, if you see, there's altogether different things that are there. There's visual analytics. There is the qualitative side, the quantitative side. There's a lot of analytics that are there, right? And that needs to be taken care of. One, two. Until and unless the parents, the coaches, and the players are educated about it, and they get to know how to use this tech, it will be very difficult for, I believe, every one of us to survive, to be honest. Because at the end of the day, the users have to educate themselves. We are there. We are not saying that we are not going to educate them. We are there to educate them. But they need to, welcome this with an open heart and a mind, saying that, yes, this is something that we want to do, and be ready or be prepared to pay for it as well. Because at the end of the day, we, being a company, we need revenues to survive. True. And to keep on, make our product much better and advanced so that we keep on growing and they are able to grow in return as well.
Makes sense. And Gagan, coming to you, you already mentioned about the commoditization part of tech, and that somewhere links to taking it to the grassroots level. So how are you doing it differently?
See, guys, I mean, I'll be saying basic 101, right? But I think there's nothing more to it. I think there's a completely new generation there. When I grew up, I was a subservient young lad who'd listen to his dad, who listened to the coaches. Correct. Right? Even if I thought, which was also radical, nahi, galat hai, I could not say. Right? Today's generation, first thought is no, you're wrong. It's a rebel nature, which is brilliant, which is absolutely brilliant, which is what I love about today's generation. Now, if they are my target segment, how do I create awareness? That's the game. That's one. Second is, one thing which has remained is stardom, trying to look up to somebody, which is, I think, human nature. If somebody has done excellence, I look up to that person. Right? Can we influence some of the big influencers? It's a long game. Because today's influencer was not influencer 5 years back. So you have to work with some of those guys who may become an influencer later and maybe help in their journey. So a lot of hard work. That's how the stories will be out. And third is about stories. I tell my team, I'm in a business where I'm selling hope. That's all I'm doing. Everything else is incidental. I sell hope to a young player who wants to a grassroots or to a just sub-elite or to a 40-year-old club player who plays either to impress or to go to nostalgic was main aisa ho sakta tha. That's how players are. So I'm doing these three things. Now how do I bring it all together? So how do I create, for example, what if I tell you an IPL player playing at that level, where a 4-degree shift in bat lift angle, just a 4-degree shift, go back to geometry guys, 4-degree, improved his bat speed by 21%, impact speed by 27%. I think that's a story. It communicates a lot to that young mind. And best of all, he goes back to, in sports, I have to sweat the small stuff. And hence, something like this can give me a differentiation. Right? So education cannot be feature function. It doesn't work that way. It just doesn't work that way. You have to go to the why and communicate in stories which they can understand. You have to create, now for creating stories and a market like sports in India, there is a bit of budget requirement because those stories are personal, that needs to go out, no doubt, but you have to create those stories. I really think, I'm a big fan of this brand called Whoop. How many of you have heard about Whoop? Right? Not many? It's a beautiful brand, doing amazingly well, launching in India. Before launching in India, there was so much of inquiries. Simply because they could work with the very best, right from LeBron and the likes. Most of the Indian players, I believe, right now are playing with, using Whoop, right? And there's this sleep analysis. Now, fine, sleep is important, but as normal Joe, we don't. But that has come to the psyche. Those stories got published. Amazingly well done. An aspirational product. I think the way to get about this Indian demographic, the young demographic, is to create stories, give them the aspiration, give them the ammunition for them to make their own rebellious fight, and go after that. That is the only way I believe we can create an effective awareness.
So adding to what Gagan is saying, okay, in the olden days we didn't have all these, right? So when I was working with the Indian team, two of my biggest feathers in my career is, one was Vidu dedicating his triple century to me, first triple century at Multan. So he was not scoring runs in Pakistan, and I was comparing his videos when he was doing well, when he was not doing well. And I found that his stance, his spline angle was 45 degrees when he was doing well. And it had come down to 30 degrees when he was not doing well. So I called up Viru and said, hey Viru, are you working something on your stance? He said, no. Then he said, why? And I said, I have something to show you, come. And we discussed for about a couple of hours on the pros and cons. And I were able to convince him that to revert back to his old ways of doing things. And I did that manually. Okay, and he, fortunately for me, he went on to adopt and he went on to score the triple century, and he had the heart to dedicate it to me. So that's the one. Second one was Sahana Kumari. So I didn't know anything about high jump. So I went to Sports Authority of India and said, those days I wanted to prove a concept. And I said, give me somebody who's not expected to qualify for Olympics. And they said, Sahana Kumari, she'll be very lucky if she qualifies for Olympics. So we worked with her for almost 300 jumps, 350 jumps in Patiala, IDS Patiala. And we struck a pattern that every time she hit the bar, her takeoff point was close to the bar. So now, we went and brought it to the awareness of the athlete and the coach, and with the naked eye coaching, it was not identified. And within a month, she was able to remodel and she qualified for Olympics. So with just a handycam, we were able to power somebody's qualification into Olympics. So that's how critical data is. And what Gagan and others are doing, Footrax and all are doing is that data, which can give you that golden nugget, which can change, a minor change, like he talked about the backlift, can bring about wonders in your performance. Imagine somebody scoring a triple century, somebody qualifying for Olympics. That kind of impact technology can bring about. So earlier we were doing it manually. Even the players getting dehydrated. Okay, you ask for water much later, you get dehydrated fast, and there are a lot of research papers available that your performance drops down if you are dehydrated. So how to identify dehydration earlier? So those days we didn't have, the trainer used to ask me to come and help him. We used to collect the urine, see the urine color. If the urine is, color is, dark yellow, then, we know that he has not drank water. In a place like Chennai, if you start hydrating 3 days before the game. You start drinking water, enough water to keep you hydrated. So all those were done manually. Today, the possibilities are different. Today I have computer vision, which is going to find out the angle. It will automatically notify Viru if his spline angle goes from 45 to 30 degrees. So it can be corrected at that earlier thing. With the straight bat, the sensors are throwing up so much of data. Okay, it can make a huge impact on it. So one of these data points can make a huge impact. What I found out was in those 2 milestones was only 2 data points. So it has so much of impact on it.
No, thank you so much for sharing. And I think on feet is something which cannot go away, tech or no tech, right? Yes. You have to be there. You have to be on the job, right? So that's fantastic. Okay, so moving on, and Sid, if I can get your thoughts on this. Now, we have over a period of time in recent years, largely so, looked at a lot of success, or let me put it, maybe fair amount of success in different sports, right? And tech has started to contribute. We just heard about the triple century and stuff, right? To your mind, what are the things which excite you from a tech perspective in sports, where you see there's a lot of potential and needs to be further explored maybe?
So, from a performance lens, I think these gentlemen are much more qualified than me to talk about how tech and performance go hand in hand. From a commercialization perspective, I think I can maybe put some thought on it. What we see is there are 2 challenges. One is the lack of infrastructure in India. Even the best of the best stadiums, no offense, if you go to a Wankhede stadium, you will not step in the toilet at all. So how can your in-stadia experience get better, and does tech have any role to play so that more people are attracted to coming to your stadium and spend more, and it's sort of a behavior. Of course, we don't have leagues that run every week, but IPL is good. I think most of the stadia in IPL are almost full. I wouldn't say completely full, but how other sports can, or how in general we can make in-stadia viewing experience better, because the experience of watching sport on the screens is there's a gulf in watching it on the screen versus the in-stadia experience. And then when start bringing it down lower, going to a turf to play a six-a-side game, how can you elevate that experience? I think tech has a role to play from a six-a-side match that you want to play with your mates to going to watch a cricket final in Wankhede or a Narendra Modi Stadium. I think that is one thing that excites me. I don't know if tech has got any role to play. I know at an experiential level we are doing something which is probably trying to elevate experiences of people playing in casual sports or community sport. But how can you start amplifying that and taking it up the sort of ladder? And then the other side is how can you use first party data to commercialize your sports properties better. I recently wrote something about fans and how there was this good debate on the overlap which English footballer, ex-Man United footballer Gary Neville runs a podcast. It's a podcast which is now, I think it's a good medium for fan voices, etc. So there was a good debate happening where a football finance expert was talking about how fandom is exploited in the West. And I think when you compare that with what in India, where we are in a nascent stage. And how can technology give you enough feedback for an ISL club or for a Pro Kabaddi League club or even some IPL clubs which don't have that big a fan following? How can you build or make your products more relatable by collecting this first party data? People like to talk about fan engagement, but I think we are very far from being close to delivering good products for fan engagement. So I think these two segments where a Western geography like the UK, where people are talking about exploiting fandom, where we are not even close to having that sort of, where people come to say कि यार मुझे exploit कर रहे हो तुम, यहाँ तो 2 रुपए नहीं निकल रहे fan से. Because it's not the fans' problem also, it's the product has to be very relatable to the audience. And that's where something which you said, that aspirational, like a person today is playing games on Dream 11 because उसको पता है कि मेरे को यहाँ से पैसा मिलने वाला है. But is he paying that much subscription to watch content? Some places. Is he paying enough money to watch, buy a t-shirt, buy a merchandise?
We don't.
Maybe maturing. So how can we sort of use technology to exploit, maybe not the right word, but explore rather. Explore that. So I think these are the two places which I see where technology I think has a very big role to play. And if we are not able to commercialize, I think in 5 years, someone else on this panel will still be talking about the same challenges कि पैसा कहाँ से बनाएं in sport. So I think the whole behavior, the whole, how we consume and talk sport and how we interact with sport has to mature and change. And I think technology has a very big role to play in that.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, looking forward to those kind of interventions. And Ramky, any inputs from your end on this one? Something which excites you for the future?
Oh yeah, in terms of whenever somebody comes to me for an interview for my company, I ask them, do you want to serve? Because everybody comes to sports mechanics thinking that once they work for sports mechanics, they will go with the Indian team. That's the aspiration, right? But so I asked them, we had to play it down because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity. It cannot. I was just lucky. I happened to be, I got the opportunity 21 years back and I passed on the baton to many of my colleagues who carried on with the team till to date. But when I asked them, do you want to serve 15 people or you want to serve 1.2 billion people? So engaging the fan. Today, India is a sports viewing population than a sport playing population, and how engaging the fan is very, very important because the economy gets built there. And only if the economy gets built there, the money then trickles down to the training part of it. So like for instance, now cricket, earlier there was no money. Okay, the training aspect of it, people are not willing to spend. Today, I see a change. People are willing to spend. As long as they get the right kind of service for their product, definitely there is a change in the appetite to pay. We are a kitna deti hai country, that is fine. But yeah, we have to address that, we have to crack that, and we have to provide the right kind of service. I see a huge change happening now. And I'm sure it's going to change in the next 10, 15 years with the India hosting the Olympics, that will happen. In terms of the fan engagement part of it, you talked about the first party mandated data. Fan data monetization has become a new revenue stream today, which people have not really tapped into. But the other one is, I don't know why, like it baffles me as to why none of the IPL teams have invested in a property of their own. They've outsourced fan engagement to Facebook and YouTube
Sports
and Twitter.
Interactive. And
You don't own the fan, right? So CSK says I have 20 million fans. So what? Facebook doesn't allow you to monetize that much. Just imagine the valuation of CSK if they own the fan on their own digital platforms. So people have not taken that investment because one of the things is that without a ball being bowled, I have a huge amount of profit being made. So the central revenues are there. Why should I stretch myself? I think there is a lot more which they can be achieved, and more important, how do you acquire fans? How do you identify fans? How do you curate the fan from a casual fan to a fanatic, that fan journey? How do you curate him into a fanatic? How do you engage with him? Because digital loyalty is very less. At the flick of a finger, they are off to the next destination. Right? If you don't capture within the first 5 seconds, they are off to the next destination. So story has to be powerful, storytelling. And today the consumption patterns of fans have changed. Everybody wants snackable content. It can be pushed along to them. And today's technology provides a whole lot of things, the way people experience the sport. Even, nothing to do with SportsVot, but live streaming is like a VCR of old days, in my opinion. Right? By the time you watch a century, you'll have to go back and forth, and you spend about 8 hours. But the digital interactivity provides you much more opportunity to make it more interactive. Most of the views in IPL are not for live streaming, it is more for the highlights and the short form videos. And everywhere short form is becoming big, right? So the kind of engagement which can happen is very, very different today.
Interesting. No, thank you for sharing that. And I think, again, one goes back to the fact that GTM, as you called it out, is going to be very important. And also the fact that what is the depth of your solution? How is it relatable to the end user will definitely kind of differentiate from the winners to the losers, so as to say. Okay. We are a little short on time. So just a quick input, maybe Gagan from your end on if we look at some of the success stories and the developed markets when it comes to the sports economy, right? And if we were to narrow it down to the monetization part of it, we have covered it in bits and pieces, but how do you distinguish it between what we see here in our country vis-a-vis some of the success stories and say the EPL or the NFLs of the world?
I think it's a very apple to oranges comparison. And I don't think so we should fall in that trap, right? We're talking about the Western world who has had legacy of amazing GDP growth, infrastructure, in huge investment there, and assets created, which is phenomenal. Now, they already have, look at the US, right? There's NBA, there's college. There's already, my niece went in LA for college football. This entire stadium was full. College football. Entire stadium was full, right? So for us to even think that we are there and hence we can bring the solution which is working in the West here, I think is border on blasphemy, right? India has a different problem. India do not have that kind of layers, structure, right? But India has always been unstructured in every aspect. I mean, whose telecom was structured? No, telecom is still not structured, right? So I think we need to understand that India nuance very well. One. Second, monetization. India is difficult across industries. So it's nothing new to sports. So I think we should stop shying away. It's very difficult to monetize here. Difficult to monetize in any, but somebody who has done it really well and really made those billions, right? So how do we do that? Again, goes back to taking the momentum which we have right now of the youth, driving their aspiration. We talked about, somebody was talking about what will happen in the future. I just heard. Think about it, the assets, the product to be created. It's going to happen where my nephew will bowl from Australia with a real ball. I will bat right from here in this hall. I'll configure the pitch for Lords in the month of July. And this is going to happen. Can it be done at a level of price, paying propensity in India? And then you normalize it to the players. There you see an asset which is getting created. I really think we have to focus on those kind of assets which caters to the aspiration of these guys. Sports is all about aspiration. Sports gives you hope. You have to sell hope and create asset for those hopes. There's no easy answer to this question because it's a tough problem.
Yeah.
But these are my thoughts.
Interesting. Okay. So I think we are up on the time. Thank you so much for listening to us. And as we wrap up the session again, my heartfelt thanks to everyone for enabling our conversation here. We did explore a lot of things and elements of what it takes to, what it will rather take for tech to have more intervention and successful intervention in the sports sector. The innovations from the analytics to the variables, I think it's endless. And we are definitely looking forward to very exciting times ahead. As a closure note, I would say, while we do this, what we should also remember that sports at the end of the day is also about passion. It is about the connect. It is about the community spirit. And now it is going to be about innovation as well. So with that, thank you so much. And it was great to be here.